What is going on, Colts Nation, and welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guys, Cody and Derek, back with another one, guys. Well, guys, we are continuing right along and talking about the defense and special teams today. If you haven't already, be sure to check out our first video where we talked about the offense, gave grades to every position on the offense through 10 weeks. We're going to do the same here with the defense and the special teams. But before we do that, guys, just want to say this episode is sponsored by FanDuel. Guys, right now, the Indianapolis Colts sit at 8-2, and their playoff chances are extremely good. The Colts right now have negative 2,000 odds, so very, very good odds to make the playoffs here, Derek. Even though the Colts schedule is definitely going to get tougher down the last 7 games of the season, they do have really good odds here, man, to make the playoffs, and I think that shouldn't surprise anybody because the Colts are the number 1 seed in the AFC right now. So that being said, guys, be sure to go check out FanDuel, all they have over there. There's so many more things other than just divisional odds or playoff odds. There's player props and everything else that you might need. But be sure to check them out. Again, shout out to FanDuel. All right, let's get into this, Derek. Let's talk about this defense. And when you look at this defense overall, it's definitely been some up and down moments from this unit this year. And I know there's been their fair share of injuries to this defense. There's been a lot of things. The defense obviously just got a jolt here at the trade deadline when the Colts traded for Sauce Gardner. But what has your impressions been overall from this Colts defense here through 10 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I really think it's been a much vastly improved unit from what it was last year, Cody. I mean, just from a sense of, the overall yardage that you're giving up. I mean, I think the Colts are giving up like 40 to 45 yards less per game than what they were last year at this point. And I mean, that's very good because, I mean, you talk about it, that's basically a whole drive offensively for a lot of teams. So if you're talking about getting rid of one offensive drive per game more than what you were last year, that's certainly a great surprise. And, so far this year, the Colts are the 9th best scoring defense. They got the 7th best rushing defense, which last year, I mean, Cody, they were terrible at stopping the run last year. They were 25th, if I'm not mistaken. So a drastic increase in that. It might go down a little bit now with, obviously, with DeForest Buckner being out for several games. That might hurt you. But, I mean, I think another thing, Cody, that we fail to mention is think of the number of games where the Colts are blowing teams out, and then in those fourth quarters, they're giving up lots of yardage in those fourth quarters when teams are trying to pass it and are facing our second strings, right? Our second and third string units out there when we're already up by 30. That's happened quite a bit this year. So, I mean, realistically, the numbers should be better if you didn't take into account that. So, all in all, I love what this defense has done so far this year. It's been good enough to be able to have you win all these games.
Yeah, and it's funny, you mentioned the, second and third string guys. I mean, really, Derek, is the fourth or fifth string guys. If you factor in all the injuries the Colts have had to deal with, especially at their, cornerback room, it's kind of crazy how much injury they have had to that one specific unit. Everything else has been relatively healthy this year, but that cornerback room has been hit unlike anything I think we've seen from the Colts injury front. I mean, you always have injuries, but gosh, that unit got decimated this year, and now you're hoping to get it a little bit more healthy, and the healthiest you can get it here after the bye. So all that to say, the Colts have definitely had to use their imagination in a lot of ways to figure out how to piece together this cornerback room, and now you feel a lot better about it moving forward, but certainly had to weather that storm throughout the course of the first 10 weeks. But let's get into some of the grades here, Derek, for this Colts defense. Let's talk about this defensive line. We already mentioned DeForest Buckner going to be missing the next 3 games here, so that definitely is a huge blow for this Colts defense. He's on IR right now with that neck injury, but Colts do have some other players that I feel like stepped up pretty well against the Atlanta Falcons. They obviously have Grover Stewart, his running mate, in there, one of the best run-stopping one-techs in the NFL. They signed Neville Gallimore in the offseason. He's definitely had to take on a bigger role with Buckner being out, but he's kind of been a rotational guy. You have some other guys there in that interior that are kind of just reserve guys, right? You've had a little bit of Eric Johnson this year. Tim Smith got a little bit of action, not a ton for that interior, that defensive line. And, of course, when you look at the edge room, you have Leatu Latu. You have, JT Tuimuluau, who you drafted, the two young guys. You have Kwity Paye, who's in a contract year. Samson Mebukam, who has been injured a good chunk of this year and also still recovering from that Achilles tear. So the Colts have kind of had just a collective unit of some veteran guys, some guys on the last, deals of their contract, some younger guys trying to make their statement. And I didn't even mention Adi Tamiwa as well, who's gotten some reps. And I think he's looked fairly well at getting after the quarterback. So there's a lot of guys here for the Indianapolis Colts that they have invested draft capital into. What's your grade and impression, Ben, of this defensive line?
I'm going to probably give this unit a B-. I'd struggle to go higher than that, Cody. And honestly, the only reason I really give them a B- is because they're performing to the level that I think all of us expected them to perform at, which honestly isn't really saying much. And as far as, being better at stopping the run this year, that's not entirely on them, but it is a step forward compared to what they were last year. Because remember, this is the same defensive line almost as you had last year. And they've obviously done a much better job this year at going into the right gaps, filling the holes correctly, and doing better at stopping the run. They've gotten better at tackles for loss for sure. The only reason I can't put them any higher than that is because, again, Cody, nobody's really taken over this year again at being a premier rusher. Obviously, Liatu Latu had 2.5 sacks against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But after that, in the other 9 games, he has 2.5 sacks altogether. Now, I'll applaud him in the fact that he has 2 interceptions and 3 pass deflections this year. So obviously, Lou Anarumo has put him in coverage a frequent amount this year. And, he has been able to make plays on that. I'll give him that. DeForest Buckner started out the year really slow, but over the last few weeks, outside of obviously because he's now on IR, the last few weeks has really started to pick it up, and it sucks for him because he's double teamed the most of every single person on this defensive line. So that's a struggle. But then the rest of the way, Cody, I mean, your backup defensive end is your 3rd highest sack total with 3. Again, you have a guy in Kwity Paye who you drafted in the 1st round in 2021, and you're in a contract year, and Kwity Paye's not really showing you anything. That's the problem. You have not seen him take that step forward. I love the fact that he's available. The first 2 years, Cody, of his contract, even for partial that 3rd year, we're wondering, is he going to be around? Is he going to even be available, because that was a major concern, was his health coming in. And he, the last 2 seasons hasn't missed a game. And, I love the fact that he's available, but the numbers aren't really backing it up. You brought in Neville Gallimore as depth for defensive tackle, which, he's been okay for what you're asking him to do. He's done his job. He's done enough. It's not like you put anything major into it. I mean, that's kind of the thing, Cody, is we said that, there was one group on this defense that, that Ballard really didn't put a massive emphasis on changing this year. And it was this defensive line. I mean, the only real thing you did was bring in JT Tuimuluau, who is just now starting to get snaps because of the injuries to the group and is finally starting to, get some pressures. But JT Tuimuluau, who was a 2nd-round draft pick, he hasn't done anything for you yet this year. So again, it's kind of just been underwhelming. Latu hasn't really taken that massive step yet.
I would strongly disagree with that.
I would
disagree with that.
I will agree with you. He is getting the pressures. I feel like if there's a category of near misses on sacks. I think Laiatu Latu is like number one in that category. I mean, he does get pressure on the quarterback. Just ultimately, the number itself is not super high. He doesn't really finish sacks as frequently as I wish he would.
I would say that I think sacks, obviously you like to see the stats, but I do think in certain ways those can be overrated. Like if we purely base and grade Laiatu Latu off his sacks, then yeah, of course. But I think if you dive a little bit deeper, Laiatu Latu's having a really strong sophomore season. So I would disagree in that category, but I understand what you're saying about the sacks. Like,
yeah, I mean, I just want somebody to start taking, I want to see a TJ Watt. I want to see another player that, is on the verge of double digit sacks, like I want to see that, because the problem is we have all these mid-tier guys right now, Cody, that, do enough, but like we don't have a game changer on that defensive line. And, it's why we kept saying all this time, Trey Hendrickson, Myles Garrett, and more guys in that room. Like we want to try to get that big name in here because that would drastically improve your defense. Not saying that the defensive line has been bad this year, but they've been far from, seeing anyone that has really stepped up to be that true impact difference maker.
Here's a little bit. I just want to like defensive Latu again. Derek, he already has more sacks and more quarterback hits and all that stuff than he had his rookie season. So he definitely is breaking out, but I think more the problem for me is you just don't have another guy in there to go alongside him and consistently get after the passer. Like that's my biggest issue. My issue is less about what Latu's doing because I think he's doing well, in my opinion. Like he's doing well in his rookie second year. But I think my problem is you just, like you said, like Kwity Paye's been disappointing at getting after the passer. And, JT Tuimoloau hasn't got a ton of snaps until the last couple weeks with some of the injuries. So that's kind of my issue with it, is just like, I just feel like the guys that should be proving stuff aren't doing that. And that's my issue. Laiatu Latu is doing fine, but like Samson Ebukam and Kwity Paye, like they just aren't getting after the quarterback effectively, consistently. Now I understand Ebukam's coming back from that injury, but I just feel like you need to be giving at this point some of your younger guys more opportunities, because I feel like they've been more effective than some of those veterans who you expected to be more effective.
Yeah, I mean, again, it'll be interesting to see how they look down the stretch, but this defensive line needs a major shakeup after this next season. I mean, I don't think it needs a major one after this season, but here soon. I mean, again, we keep talking about it. DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart, they're not getting any younger. Those are guys that are not going to be around here for many more years. And Kwity Paye, I wouldn't re-sign him unless it's a team-friendly deal this offseason. And, you're tied to Laiatu Latu, and you hope that he'll continue on, the progression that he's at right now. And obviously Ebukam, who, is on the back end of his career as well off of that injury. So, I mean, again, the Colts need some more help there. But, yeah, I'd just probably stick with the B- for what they've done this year.
Yeah, and Latu also has been really good against the run, too. I don't want to forget that. Like, I think he's been a lot better this year at that. So, overall, yeah, I think if I'm the Colts moving forward, obviously you can't trade for anybody at this point. But I would probably just let the young guys play it out, because it can't be much worse than it's been for some of these veterans that getting after the quarterback. So, even if Ebukam comes back and Tyquan Lewis comes back, like third down, I'm giving the young bucks an opportunity, in my opinion. Like I'm giving them a chance, because it's got to be better than what you've had from some of these vets. So that's just my opinion. But yeah, let's continue on though. Let's move it to linebacker. And Derek, this is the one I think that we're both going to agree on. This has not been a good unit this year in general. Like, I feel like Zaire Franklin's definitely having a better year than 2024. But other than Zaire Franklin, this unit has been through so many guys. And the guy you have right now, it's not been great with Jermaine Pratt. So what are your thoughts just on this linebacker room in general, and what grade would you give it?
I'm curious to see how, if we're a little further off than I might imagine, I'd probably go with a C+. I'd probably go with C plus, just because, like, on one hand, like, again, Cody, you've talked about it. You were expecting Jalen Carlisle this year. Like, that was the whole anticipation. We were thinking Jalen Carlisle was going to ascend into this role of this linebacker that was going to, be able to cover people in the slot, was going to be able to get the running backs coming out of the backfield. This pass coverage guy that was going to make this defense better. And we have not seen Carlisle all year. And so, of course, it's been Zaire Franklin. And then, of course, we tried to put Joe Bashi out there, and he is absolutely terrible. And Ajak, which I love and respect Ajak, but Ajak is not a guy that can cover people in pass coverage. I love the effort he gives in the run department, but he is not a guy that can cover anyone in the pass. And, obviously, like you said, Zaire Franklin, from a statistical standpoint, isn't having the greatest of seasons, but I feel like he's more refined this year in that, he's not missing tackles as much this year. He's getting to his assignments a lot quicker this year. He's making more plays in the backfield than what he normally does. The tackle numbers, it is what it is. It's not a great sign when your linebacker is far and away the highest tackler on the team. Typically, that results in saying that your defense is typically not that good when your tackle leader is a linebacker and they have like 100 plus tackles through 10 weeks, which Zaire Franklin, he only has 60 tackles this year, Cody. He's not even the leader of the Colts in total tackles this year. It's actually Nick Cross. So, all in all, that is a great response in saying that Zaire Franklin is following his assignments a lot better now, and things are looking better for him. Not saying he's having a great season, but he's having a more efficient season. But after that, the Colts have not had an answer, Cody. Meaning, you brought in Jermaine Pratt, who is, the lesser of all evils, but it certainly is far from perfect right now. So, yeah, I'd probably go C plus, because, again, they're trying with what they have. But like you said, this is just not a unit that has favored well against the pass for sure.
Yeah, and I would go just because of Zaire Franklin this year. Like, we know what he is. He's not a great coverage linebacker, but we know his strengths and his weaknesses. But he's made enough plays this year where I'm like, okay, like, I think he's holding up this unit to a C for me. If you take out Zaire Franklin, this is a C minus D group, in my opinion. But yeah, I think Zaire's having a bounce back season. Nothing crazy, but I think he's been solid this year for the Colts. But other than him, Jermaine Pratt's been okay. Not great in coverage, but he's been okay in terms of the run department, which is good. And obviously he had that fumble recovery, which was great. So he's made a few plays for the Colts defense, but nothing crazy. And we know the obvious weakness, Derek, with this Colts linebacker room. We've known it all year, and that's definitely something in the offseason they got to figure out how to help for sure. Now, let's continue on with the cornerback room. And like I said at the top of the video, the unit that has been decimated with injuries this year. More than any unit by far. Yet right now, Derek, the Colts cornerback room, if you get back to Tarvarius Ward in a couple weeks, this might be the best cornerback room in the NFL. And there's obviously been a ton of movement. Between drafting Justin Wally, him getting injured, bringing in Xavier Howard, him being terrible, cutting Xavier Howard, retiring. You brought in Mekhi Blackman a little bit earlier. So you've done a lot of movement, especially at the cornerback room this year. And obviously we know Charvarius Ward as well. You brought in free agency. So you've made a lot of moves, but you've also had a lot of injuries. I think, Derek,
Thanks.
Before Sauce Gardner came in, outside of, I think, Mekhi Blackman, all of your starting corners or corners who have played significant snaps this year have all been injured and missed multiple games this year, which is crazy. That's just wild. And, obviously Wally didn't even get to the regular season. So it's just wild to me how many injuries the Colts have truly had at this cornerback room, but yet they've still been able to weather the storm. They're still 8-2, and now they're getting back healthy. So what would you give this unit, though, since we're not looking ahead, we're looking back, what would you give this unit through 10 weeks?
Yeah, again, thinking about just the amount of injuries, Charvarius Ward has missed several weeks due to concussions. Kenny Moore missed 3 weeks due to that MCL. Jalen Jones didn't play for the first half of the year because of re-aggravating hamstring. Justin Wally, who you drafted in the 3rd round, who was likely going to be a starter at the start of the year, tears his ACL in training camp. You bring in Xavier Howard, who retires after 3 weeks. And then you bring in Mekhi Blackman, who has had to come in. Then you had to start guys like Jonathan Edwards when Jalen Jones, Kenny Moore, Charvarius Ward, all these guys were all injured. It's like, what is going on? It's just like, it's the worst thing ever. And I will give them a B-. Or actually, you know what? I'm going to give them a step ahead. I'm going to give them a B because, again, for everything, Cody, that they have had to deal with, this cornerback room has not been healthy for one moment yet this year. It's not once been healthy at all year long. The only time that it might be 100% healthy, Cody, is when Charvarius Ward comes back. Because when Charvarius Ward comes back, then you have him matched with Kenny Moore in the slot and Sauce Gardner out there on the edge. And then you have Jalen Jones as cornerback 4 and Mekhi Blackman as cornerback 5. That is the only point in which that corner room would be 100% fine, even 80% fine. So for the entirety of this year, the Colts have had to go into the year with 75% healthy at cornerback room. And it's been at best that for the majority of the year. So I will give them a B because, yeah, our pass defense hasn't been spectacular this year. But, again, they have not been reasons why you've lost games. Sure, you can look at the Rams game and, say that Mekhi Blackman falling over his own feet might have been the nail in the coffin to the Rams game. But, ultimately, they were not the biggest reason as to why you lose that football game. So, despite all the injuries they've had to deal with, they have still performed well enough that the Colts have still been winning games in spite of all of that.
Yeah, it's crazy, man, how you've had to rely on your depth and then some. Like you said, you're putting out Jonathan Edwards, who's an undrafted free agent who has to start games for you this year. That's to the degree of how crazy it is, man. So it's just wild. But also you think, man, a year from now, if you have all these corners still on your roster, you're feeling pretty good about your cornerback depth, honestly. You still feel good. If you can get Charvarius Ward back, like we said, maybe before that Kansas City game, oh man, like this cornerback room from a pure talent standpoint, you have potentially 2 outside shutdown corners, the best slot in football. And then, from a depth standpoint, you have Jalen Jones, who started games for you. Mekhi Blackman started for you pretty much all year. And, then you have Jonathan Edwards, who's had a little bit of time too. So you have a lot of depth at corner and guys who have had to play who can be ready if you need them to be. So I think overall, man, looking ahead, this unit could be an A to an A+ unit if they all stay healthy. But with the fact that they haven't been, and they've still weathered the storm, I think a B is fair. B-. I agree with that. All right, let's move on to the safety room. Now, if the cornerback room has been injured, the safety room has not been. Knock on wood, obviously, but the Colts, we know they're 2 safeties this year. Cameron Bynum, you brought over in free agency. He has been a breath of fresh air, not just on the field, but also what he does in the celebration game, what he does for the locker room, like all that stuff. He has been a fantastic addition to this Colts defense. He forces fumbles, he gets interceptions, he forces turnovers, and also, like I said, man, he brings the juice when it comes to some of those celebrations, so you got to love that. I feel like the Colts defense has been sorely missing that. Just some guy that's going to bring that energy that you need on that defensive side of the ball, and also going to have a little bit of fun mixed in there as well. And then obviously Nick Cross, who having a pretty good year himself, with the Indianapolis Colts. He had a breakout year last year, just continues to play pretty good, and hopefully the Colts can retain him because that would definitely make one of the better safety duos in the NFL. But what have your impressions been, and what grade would you give this safety room?
Honestly, Cody, I'm inclined to give them an A. I don't know if A or A-. I feel like giving them an A is an okay thing. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I should give them an A because, again, you brought Cameron Bynum in here to be a difference maker in that secondary. And Lord, he has. I mean, he has 3 turnovers on the year, had a sack, obviously, in this last game against the Falcons. And he's your 3rd highest tackler this year. And I mean, again, Cody, like you said, the ability to kind of corral the team and be that loud vocal voice that just everybody loves, the guy that brings the juice. He's a guy that just brings that energy, just brings a new aspect to the team that nobody really had before. You obviously mentioned the touchdown celebrations. Like, obviously, to a lot of people, that's just stupid, but that's a great form of team bonding. And he really has been a guy that's been brought it all together. And then Nick Cross, as you said, leading tackler this year, 2.5 sacks, has an interception of his own this year. I mean, again, it's not like either of these guys are setting the league on fire, but I mean, they're both doing their jobs to a very good degree right now. And I expect them to continue to do it. I'll probably stick with an A- just to be humble in that fact. But if you're going to say anything lower than an A-, then you're not understanding the impact that these two players have had in this secondary. And the other thing, Cody, knock on wood, they've been healthy.
Yes.
Been healthy, and they've been around. So that's great to see, to be in that aspect. Because especially for Cam Bynum's sake, because, I mean, Cody, he's been durable his entire career with Minnesota. It's very commonplace for a lot of guys to go to a new building and then have injury issues right away when they get that big bag, but that hasn't happened yet with Cam Bynum. So knock on wood, hopefully it stays that way. But I mean, again, they've been available, they've been dependable, and they've done their jobs greatly.
And that was been the problem, right, with that free safety position is Julian Blackmon was a talented player, but he was injured all the time, right? So you can never fully rely on him to be available, and Cameron Bynum has been that for the Colts. And I was just looking at some snap counts here, Derek. The 2 highest players on your defense from a snap percentage standpoint are your 2 safeties. Cameron Bynum, over 91% snaps defensively this year. Nick Cross, a little over 92%. So both those guys have been on the field a ton for your defense, and they have been invaluable for your defense. So absolutely, from a production standpoint and a durability standpoint, this is about as good as you could hope for through 10 weeks for both your safeties to be available and also to be making plays as well. So great stuff there. I like that A- grade. I think that's good. Hasn't been perfect, obviously. There's been moments, but overall, when all the stuff has been in flux with your cornerback room, your safety room has stayed consistent, which is huge. Now, let's continue on. We're done with the defense, but we have to talk about some special teams things as well here. Got to talk about the kicker position, Derek, because to start this year, the kicker position was fantastic. I mean, Spencer Schrader, with what he did for the Indianapolis Colts before getting injured, I mean, he did some great stuff, man. He was hitting pretty much everything that he was given up to a point. I mean, he was very accurate. He's one of the best kickers in the NFL. Unfortunately, he goes down in that Raiders game, I believe, and you have to go on the search for a kicker, right? And you bring in Michael Badgley, and it's been a little bit of a mixed bag from Michael Badgley so far this year. And obviously, Derek, we know from last week, definitely Michael Badgley's worst performance where he misses a field goal, he misses an extra point, although I will give him props. He did return from those and kick 2 critical field goals in that game. But what has your impression been, man, just of this kicker position so far? It's such a hard position to find, especially a consistent kicker. I mean, how many teams this year are on their 2nd, 3rd, 4th kicker, honestly? So what have your impressions been of this kicker position so far from Spencer Schrader now to Michael Badgley?
Man, it sucks that we lose Schrader, man. I mean, good Lord. I mean, it was funny because, again, those first, 4 games, 5 games? Yeah, I think first 5 games before that Raiders game. I mean, Schrader had the most points of any kicker in all of the National Football League, and honestly was the highest scorer in the NFL through the first 5 weeks. I mean, again, it goes to show you what he was doing. And then obviously you have to bring in Badgley over the last several weeks. Again, and that drops it off. That drops it off a little bit for sure. And I will definitely give a knock on the kicking group for sure. And the fact that Badgley has missed 2 extra points so far this year. He almost did cost us that Falcons game. Thankfully it didn't, but it very well could have. But I will give kicking this year, I'll give it a minus, just because of the fact that, again, Badgley had to be put in this situation. The Colts had to make the best of what you could do. There's not a lot of elite kickers out there on the open market after you get the one that you like, right? So that's tough to do. And, Badgley has come through in some big moments this year so far. So I'll go A minus, because it would be an A plus if it was just Schrader throughout all this time and what he's been doing. But Badgley knocks it down a little bit, but it hasn't cost the Colts any games yet this year. So I'll give it an A minus.
Honestly, if it just wasn't for the missed extra points, he's only missed 1 field goal this year.
Right, and it was a 50-yarder. Yep.
Yeah, so it's like it's a 50-yarder, so whatever, it happens,
Yeah.
But the extra points thing, I think, yeah, like you said, like if he makes that extra point, you don't even go to OT. Like you win in regulation. So that stuff matters for sure. But hopefully Badgley, he bounced back well in that game. Hopefully he doesn't miss any more extra points this year, or else we're going to have a very serious conversation, because that's not okay. But, yeah, it's just unfortunate that Schrader had to go down when he did, because he was having a breakout year for the Colts. He only had missed 1 field goal up to that point, which is definitely impressive in itself through 5 weeks. So definitely sucks there. Let's move to punter here, Derek. I mean, I don't think this one's too difficult. Rigoberto Sanchez continuing to do what he does, man. I mean, he's just a fantastic punter, and nobody talks about him, but he just continues to be one of the best punters in the NFL.
Yeah, and it's hilarious, because obviously through the first 10 quarters of football this season, we're questioning are the Colts going to ever punt the football again. So, through the first 15% of the year, Cody, this man didn't have to do anything. I mean, he literally had nothing to do with his life other than sit on the bench and talk to everybody. So, I mean, we almost forgot that Rigoberto Sanchez existed. So, I would probably go with A right here, no doubt, for what he's been able to do this year.
It's funny, Derek, because I just happened to glance at the 2024 stats a little bit, and I was like, I wonder how many times Rigoberto Sanchez had to punt last year. Can you take a guess how many times? He's had to punt 19 for reference. He had to punt 19 times this year through 10 games. How many times do you think he had to punt last year?
I'm going to say probably like 60 times or something.
68 times he had to punt last year. He's only punted 19 times through 10 games. So if that tells you anything, and yeah, for sure. So it's just kind of crazy how little he's actually had to be out there and punt this year. So he's probably enjoying himself, though, man. He's getting paid. He doesn't have to do a ton. It's probably pretty nice. But yeah, anyway, guys, we'll round it out here by talking about the special teams punt/kick coverage here and the return game as well. Because I definitely feel like, Derek, there's been a lot more juice this year from the punt return game. Kick return, punt return, a little bit iffy to start the year, but they have definitely locked in after that. I mean, especially in that Falcons game. I mean, both units literally were helping you win that game. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, it's been a series of up and downs when it comes to this, special teams unit this year, as far as kick and punt coverage and as far as kick returns and punt returns. Early in the year, it was really bad. Like, it was really, really, really bad. And we were wondering, like, has Brian Mason finally met his days? Because, this looks terrible. I mean, teams were half the time starting with the ball at midfield. I mean, even in that Miami game, there were multiple times when they started those drives at the 45-yard line or better because we couldn't keep them out of the way. So, yeah, those were terrible. And, our kick returns and punt returns, just weren't looking the same. And then all of a sudden in the last month, it seems to have really changed. Like, teams are not getting as good a field position anymore. And you obviously saw in the Chargers game where Amir Abdullah, and especially when the Chargers in that game, they scored a touchdown right away out of the gate in that second half. You were only up by 2 scores there. The Colts needed something to get their offense going and to be able to respond to that quick score that the Chargers just got. And what happens? Amir Abdullah nearly takes it to the house and brings it to the 15-yard line of the Chargers. And the Colts were able to score very quickly in response to that. And, over the last several weeks, Josh Downs has had to step up for Anthony Gould, who's been injured. And albeit he had the one punt fumble that is his fault, and thankfully it didn't cost us. But other than that, Josh Downs has been great the last few weeks at returning punts. Ashton Doolin has had a couple of good kick returns. And so it has gotten much, much better to where Colts are winning the special teams battle. And it's really helping their offense over the last several weeks to be able to get in positions to score easier because of that. So I don't know. I'd probably give it a B+ because I like the direction it's heading. It was bad to start the year. Thankfully, it wasn't costing us games, but in the direction it's headed, I'll give it a B+ because it's starting to be in a much better spot. If the Colts continue what they're doing in special teams coverage like that, then it'll probably end up being an A- or an A by the end of the year.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it. I feel like there's 3 guys on kick and punt return, and then a 4th if you want to count Josh Downs, which he doesn't typically do that. But, I mean, there's guys like on your roster that have done phenomenal when they've been able to return. Like when obviously throw out the Pittsburgh game, like Josh Downs was fantastic, like I said, against that Falcons game. And then you talked about just the kick returns. Amir Abdullah, I tell you what, man, if you talk about like biggest surprises this year, Amir Abdullah's come out of nowhere. He's quietly become RB2, and he's also been one of your best return guys. And then obviously Anthony Gould's been one of the best kick returners in the NFL as well. You've had multiple moments, man, where either your guys have almost broken it or they've broken it and there's been some sort of penalty or something. But, I mean, they've just been that good this year for you. And you feel like you have some weapons truly back there right now that you feel like can help you out in any game. Because if it's not for that kick return at the end of that game from Abdullah, you probably don't get down into field goal position, or it's definitely a lot tougher to get down into field goal position. So special teams matters. We've said it before. And in that Atlanta game, special teams won you that game. It really did. So I'm excited to see what this special teams unit continues to do because they're definitely trending in the right direction from a return and coverage standpoint, and I'm excited to see how it continues to go along. But anyway, guys, that'll do it for this one. Let us know your thoughts here on the defense and special teams. What grade would you give these units collectively? Let us know in the comments down below. Guys, do us a huge favor if you're still listening right now. Be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to hit subscribe as well. We found out 42% of people who are tuning in are not subscribed. So definitely, if that is you, we'd love for you to consider joining the family here. We obviously post content all the time. We do live streams. We do all that good stuff. And also want to say shout out to FanDuel for sponsoring this episode as well. But guys, that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And as always, go Colts.